What if the reason your houseplants keep dying has nothing to do with how much you care about them? What if the plant on your shelf has been sending you clear, specific warnings for weeks? And what if the mistake that finally kills it is something you're doing because you were told it was the right thing to do? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most houseplants don't die of neglect, they die of care. The wrong care, applied faithfully by people who never learned to read what the plant was telling them, not because you're careless, because nobody ever taught you the signals. By the end of this video, that changes. You'll know the 5 most common mistakes that quietly kill houseplants, the exact warning sign the plant gives for each one, and the fix, backed by real plant science, not folklore. And stay for number 5, because it's the one almost everyone does with total confidence, and it's been sabotaging your plants for years. 1. You water on a schedule instead of when the plant asks. Every Sunday, watering can in hand, down the row of pots. It feels responsible. It feels like being a good plant owner. But here's what's actually happening. Roots don't just drink water, they breathe. The spaces between soil particles hold air, and roots pull oxygen from those air pockets constantly. When you water on a fixed schedule, regardless of whether the soil has dried, you keep those air pockets flooded. And flooded roots don't drown quietly. They suffocate slowly, then rot. The plant tells you it's happening. Yellowing leaves all over the plant, not just one old leaf at the bottom, but everywhere. And the strangest signal of all, wilting in soil that's still wet. People see the wilt, think thirsty, and water again, finishing the job. That wilt isn't thirst, it's roots so damaged they can no longer move water at all. And here's the detail that makes this mistake so sneaky. The top of the soil lies. The surface dries out in a day or two and looks ready, while 5 centimeters down, around the actual roots, the soil is still cold and wet, so the schedule waterer sees a dry surface every Sunday, waters again with a clear conscience, and never once knows that the root zone hasn't been dry in a month. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Retire the calendar. Before you water, push a finger 2 knuckles deep into the soil or lift the pot and feel its weight. Dry and light. Water thoroughly until it runs out of the drainage hole, then empty the saucer so the pot isn't standing in a puddle. Damp and heavy. Walk away, even if it's Sunday. Your plant has been trying to tell you when it's thirsty. This is how you finally listen. And the next mistake is one you can't even see, because your own eyes are hiding it from you. 2. You trust your eyes about light, and your eyes are lying. You put the plant in a corner that looks bright and cheerful. Here's the problem. Your eyes are adaptive instruments. Your pupils widen, your brain rebalances, and a corner that receives 50 times less light than a windowsill still looks bright to you. To your plant, which feeds on every photon, that lovely corner can be the equivalent of a dim cellar. The plant reports it precisely. The stems stretch long and thin with big gaps between leaves. New leaves come in smaller and paler. The whole plant leans hard toward the window like a crowd straining toward a stage. Botanists call the stretching etiolation, the plant literally pouring its energy into reaching for a light source that isn't strong enough, instead of building thick stems and full leaves. So when your plant goes tall, sparse, and leggy, it isn't growing well, it's telling you, in the only language it has, that it's starving. And there's a simple test that beats your eyes every time. Hold your hand above the spot at midday. A crisp, sharp shadow means strong light. A soft, fuzzy shadow means moderate light. Barely any shadow at all. That pretty corner is a cave, no matter how bright it feels to you. The fix. Move it closer to the window. Most houseplants want to be within about 1 meter of one. And give the pot a quarter turn each week so every side gets its share. Leggy is not a shape. Leggy is a message. If this is already changing how you read your plants, subscribe. This channel decodes what your plants are actually doing, backed by real science. Not the usual guesswork, because the next mistake is one you were probably taught as a tip. 3. You missed the leaves to fix brown tips. Brown, crispy tips appear. Someone says, your plant needs humidity, missed it. And now there's a spray bottle on the shelf. it feels helpful. Here's the science. A mist spray raises the humidity around a leaf for a few minutes at most, then the droplets evaporate, and everything is back where it started. Meanwhile, water sitting on leaves is an open invitation for fungal spots, which thrive on wet foliage. And the brown tips themselves? They're a signal, but not the one you were told. Brown tips mean the leaf's water supply ran short at the very end of the line, usually because the air is chronically dry, the watering has been erratic, or salts from tap water and fertilizer have built up in the soil and are burning the root's ability to drink. A 5-second spritz fixes none of those. The real fix depends on the message. If the air is dry, group your plants together. Each leaf releases water vapor, so a cluster of plants builds its own little humid microclimate the way they would growing side by side in nature. Or set the pots on a tray of wet pebbles, or run a small humidifier nearby. If you fertilize often, or your tap water is hard, once every month or two, water heavily until it runs freely out the drainage hole, flushing the built-up salts away. That's what the brown tips were asking for. Not a spray bottle, a plumbing fix. One more thing, because someone will ask, yes, you can trim the brown tips with clean scissors for looks, but understand that's cosmetic. The tip won't turn green again. The message was already delivered. Your job is to answer it in the soil and the air, not on the leaf. 4. You repot into a much bigger pot. To give it room to grow. It sounds generous, a big new pot so the plant can stretch out. But picture what you've actually built. A small root ball surrounded on every side by a thick mass of fresh soil with no roots in it. When you water, the roots drink their little zone dry, but that huge belt of empty soil stays cold and soggy for weeks. It's a wet blanket wrapped around the root ball, and it breeds exactly the root rot we met in Mistake 1. The signal, a plant that mysteriously stalls or declines right after the upgrade, the moment that was supposed to help it. People blame shock. Often it's simply drowning in the generosity. The fix: when you repot, go up one pot size only, a few centimeters wider, no more, always with a drainage hole. No drainage hole is not a pot. It's a bathtub with no plug, and no watering skill can save a plant standing in one. And only repot when the plant asks, roots circling the surface, roots poking out the drainage hole, water racing straight through because the pot is all root and no soil. Those are the signals. Wait for them. A slightly snug pot is not cruelty. Most houseplants grow best with their roots comfortably filling the space, and some flower better exactly because of it. 5, and this is the one almost everyone does with total confidence. You keep moving it around. A little rearranging, a sunnier spot for the weekend, over by the door when guests come. It feels harmless, furniture doesn't mind being moved. But your plant is not furniture. Every plant fine-tunes itself to one location. It builds its leaves for that exact light, adjusts its water use to that exact temperature and airflow. Scientists have shown that plants carry a kind of physical memory of their conditions. They acclimate, gradually and expensively. Every time you relocate the pot, you invalidate that work and force the plant to start over. The signal is famous. The plant that drops leaves right after being moved, now that's not drama. That's a plant shedding leaves that were built for a light level that no longer exists, and rebuilding for the new one at real cost. Do it every few weeks, and the plant spends its whole life adjusting instead of growing. And it isn't just the big moves. The small, invisible relocations count too. The spot above a radiator that turns tropical every evening, the windowsill that drops cold at night, the hallway with the draft every time the front door opens. To you, those are details. To a plant that has spent weeks tuning itself, each one is a new climate to survive. The fix? Pick a good spot, bright, stable, away from radiators and cold drafts, and then commit. If you must move it to a very different spot, do it in stages over a week or two. letting it adapt as it goes. A plant that can finally trust its location stops spending energy on survival and starts spending it on new leaves. The healthiest plants you've ever seen in someone's home are almost never the most fussed over ones. They're the ones that have stood in the same good spot for years. So here's the thread running through all 5. Watering by calendar, trusting your adapted eyes, misting the symptom, drowning it in a generous pot, shuffling it around the house. Every one of these mistakes comes from caring without reading. And every one of them, your plant flagged for you. The yellow leaves, the wilt in wet soil, the leggy stretch, the brown tips, the stall after repotting, the leaf drop after the move. It's been trying to tell you the whole time. If this video changed how you'll treat even one plant this week, do one thing before you go. Hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me which of the 5 you've been doing. I read them all, and I'll tell you what your plant was most likely trying to say. That's what we do here. Read what your plant won't say. And from today, you'll be reading it too.